In this video series, I'm going to show you how I apply 4 key design principles that you should be using in every single communication that you create. In this video, we'll be covering
proximity. So if you haven't watched my previous video on the 4 key design principles, go do that now. But if you have, you remember that proximity is really important because it implies a relationship. So related information should always be grouped together because then it helps us organize information. So let's take a look at how I apply proximity.
So once again, I'm going to use the same resume example as I did in the previous video. So in the last video, we had this example resume and we applied alignment to make it look a bit cleaner and clearer and easier to read. So what I'm going to do now is take this alignment version that I previously created and I'm going to apply proximity to it to show you how we can start to enhance this resume even more. So as I mentioned, it's really important to group similar information close to each other. So as you can see at the top, all the personal details are there, but there's quite a lot of space here. And if you think about it, it's quite similar to some of the spaces here. So it doesn't naturally create a block of text. So what I'm going to do is grab the phone number and email and bring it in closer to the name. So one thing I'll point out is a lot of people don't use the space before and after features of whatever tool they're using. And these are available in all the common Microsoft Office tools. And what that means is you're really limited in the spacing and ensuring the space between text is how you want it to look. So now that I've pressed enter, what I'm finding is that this space here is a lot smaller than this one here. So I want to reduce that down. I want these to actually look a bit closer, just so that there isn't as much of a gap. So that already looks a lot cleaner. So as I've mentioned previously, what I'm aiming for in this document is to make it really clear to the reader that there's 3 distinct sections. But at the moment, it kind of has the same similar spacing throughout and it's hard to see that. So what I'm going to do is reduce down the space between all the headings. The next thing I want to talk about is these dot points. So there's quite a lot of space between them and also between the dot and the text. But what we want to achieve through proximity is to make it really clear that these dot points all go together. So we're going to reduce these 2 spaces. So similar to that, I want to remove some of the space here and here. And again, the space between here. Now, one thing I want to highlight, as I mentioned in my previous video, you're not often going to go and apply design principles individually. So as you can see with the changes I've made, I've actually lost some of the alignment I had before. So I'm going to move that back. And also what I want to do is reduce the gap here as well, because at the moment it kind of looks like it's standalone and this is separate text. But because these are related to the overview, I want it to start to create one block of text. And that's the same here. We've got quite a big gap, so I'm going to remove that. So now what we seem to have is almost one section here and one section here because all those changes have made a massive gap, whereas we've only got a small gap here. So I'm going to reduce this down and make the space between all the different sections be the same. And I just want to point out that I am just doing this by sight, but of course you would want to use the space before and after tools to make sure that the gap is the same. So the only reason I'm doing it this way is to make it a bit quicker for this video. So one thing I want to point out is you're probably at this point saying, hang on a minute, there's some things here that really need to change. So for example, this font is different to the rest of the body text. So I've done that on purpose and I am not going to touch it at this point because we're going to look at it in another video. So if I zoom out now, I'm going to compare the two. So before we did have alignment, but we had a lot of spaces and it was hard to see where the section started and ended. So we're starting to see some improvement in that. This in particular looks like a very solid bit of text. There are still a lot of changes that I want to make in the next couple of videos, so it's going to start to become even more clearer and more professional. If you've enjoyed this video and want to keep up to date with new ones, make sure that you hit the subscribe button. And if you have any questions about what I've shown you in this video or any just on design in general, make sure you let me know in the comment section.